Well, we're getting closer to the end, and I haven't lost a finger, which is pretty good. And I haven't given up on this damn thing. So, last you saw is that the decals were done. But off camera, I did the base right here. And of course I mounted it and, you know, ran all the wiring through. So just to get you caught up on that I did off camera, because this is pretty much, you know, do what you want on your own build or whatever. And I mentioned at the end of the last video that this thing ain't really model show quality. If it was, I would have did something custom, but I did something semi-custom. But this is obviously, you know, the kit supplied base. So I made a box for the bottom so I can have extra room for the control board, and I put some strip lighting in the perimeter in here. And I have it, maybe I can show you. I have 4 of the buttons that came with the tenor control kits. Actually there's like 5. The 5th one, you know, I'm out of frame a lot because this thing is kind of tall. There's actually 5 for it, but it's for the phasers. I decided that I don't want to do the speaker thing, only because I can't remember which one, if it was the phasers or the photon torpedoes, but one of them is the sound from the original series. It's like, that ain't right for this thing. But then again, you know, and why do the phaser thing unless they ain't going to do anything? And I thought about trying to do something in the beginning on how to incorporate the phasers to make it look cool and unique, but I couldn't come up with an idea. I thought about fiber optics. I thought about LED filaments and all kinds of other stuff, and it would just look like something there. So I decided to skip the phaser part. I did put in the photon torpedo, so the lights on the photon torpedo launcher does work by pushing a button. I gotta make, this is just temporary label right here. If you can see down here, it's just blue tape. T for torpedo, DF for deflector, DM for demo, and I forgot what the other one is. Oh, setup. There's, you know, you can actually kind of program the rate of other stuff basically on pushing buttons, whatever. Haven't dealt in that yet, but anyways, this whole thing is pretty much wired up to the board. I do like to go over again on when you get towards wiring and that other always test, retest, test everything. You know, check continuity with your wiring that's coming out of here, because I had to literally take off all my little marks I had through here and just, you know, triple check that, you know, which wire goes to what. Make sure I documented it very well, because, you know, this whole thing could go to by just one wrong wire. And I did had a couple issues, because one of them I had no idea that accidentally I cut off in here, which is the wire to the navigational lights. And so I had to backtrack in here and kind of reattached one, but that was okay. What else? Of course, you got to relabel all this stuff during the testing phase. What else? Anything interesting? There is, but I'll wait till later about that. Basically, it's just a lot of, you know, just go through everything, because, you know, because it's like the point of no return. Because, you know, once all this stuff is sealed up, that's it. So make sure everything is good. Your wiring is perfect. You have everything going to where it needs to go. I won't go ahead and, like, you know, show you. I mean, like I said, there's strip light in here. It illuminates through all here, but I won't deal with. I'm going to kind of save that till this thing's all done. But this thing has a 12 volt, 2 amp power supply. That's pretty much what you want to go for, because this model kind of pulls like 1.5 amps. If you're under the amps, it will mess up your LEDs. It'll flicker, and you'll burn out your power supply. So you can always have way more enough amps, but you cannot have less. So make sure you have an amp with a power supply with plenty of amps. 2 is definitely fine for something like this. So I'm gonna say it again. Anyway, oh, also, this Tenna control boards will do 9 through 12 volts. So if you don't want to do 12 volts, that's fine, but you need at least 9. Of course, you know, the less voltage, the little dimmer look. So test it with something like, you know, one of these type of bench power supplies, adjustable ones. Obviously, you know, I did this whole thing involving this. Speaking of that, which I said I was about to go into, it basically involves the bicolor LEDs, the LED for the deflector dish and the impulse crystal. Of course, during my testing phase, you know, making sure it all works and all that other junk. Pretty much all these LEDs in here, without a resistor, is 3 volts. For this setup here, there's a few LEDs in here that says not to add resistors because the board is the resistor. The photon torpedoes is one of them. The sequential landing strip is another one, and the bicolor LEDs for the impulse crystal on the saucer and the deflector dish, no resistors. So anyways, I did my test, and to be safe, I actually did it like I was testing it at like maybe 2.75 volts, under 3, and the blues burnt up on both the impulse crystal and the deflector dish. So I actually had to freaking rebuild the whole thing. So yeah, I had to redo all that. It gave me an opportunity to kind of like change something up. I had a resistor for each one of these RCS thrusters. I decided to wire it together and put one larger resistor. So it kind of cleaned that up a little bit. Instead of using 4 resistors, I just have one for 4, just a bigger one. So anyways, involving the bicolor LEDs. Normally I was testing them with 2.75 volts, just under the 3, just to be safe. Turns out on the blue side of it, even that's a little bit too much. That's how I burnt them up, and I had to replace them and fix them. So keep that in mind when you're working with those and you're testing with them. What I end up doing now is when I put them through my power supply here and I want to test them, I turn my volts down to like 2. You won't see any light, but you know, when you're going 2 and 0.10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, whatever, just, you know, when you're under 3s, I found for me the perfect setting was 2.40 volts. And I had kind of no issues on that, but it's only because it was just enough for me to see the light, just to make sure I have current and things are wired right. So that's where that is. So just letting you know, when you're messing with those, same thing with red LEDs and blue LEDs, try to test them with minimal volts as possible, especially when you have it already installed, because you don't want to have to backtrack and kind of have to do something, and hopefully you don't have one of those LEDs in a spot like you just can't get to anymore. Luckily for me, as far as the impulse crystal, it was obviously on the underside of the neck. I just had to drill a hole into the saucer part where you don't see it in here straight up, and I was able to get access to it. And of course this wasn't attached, so I just had to pull it out. But if it was complete, you're kind of screwed. So also let that be a warning if you're actually going to do something with those LEDs that doesn't involve a board that has its own kind of built-in resistor. You're going to really have to put probably a bigger, maybe like even a 500 ohm resistor just for that one, just because, you know, you can blow that thing pretty easy. There's something about blues that blue LEDs love to go out. If you repair Christmas lights during the holiday season with LEDs, and you tend to find a lot of the blues are the ones that are dead. It's just something about blue LEDs. Saw a video on something about how hard it was for them to invent the blue LED. So just keep that in mind with blue LEDs. They can give you problems. Okay, so now let's start moving forward on what's going on now. Now that, as I explained, I got all the wire and all labeled out, so all I got to do is match things together. You know, I got little tabs that says what goes to what, so all I got to do is just solder, you know, shoring up the distance a little bit, solder them on, and glue it in place. So what I'm thinking about doing as far as the nacelles and the deflector dish, I'm going to use some Gorilla 5-minute epoxy instead of modeling glue, but I cleaned it all up as like I'm doing modeling glue, scraping paint, so it's just plastic to plastic. The deflector dish is not like much weight on it, so I think model glue will be just fine for that. But I'm doing epoxy for these just because of the weight. And also, you know, have a lot of tape standby and, you know, that other kind of good crap. Plus, the good thing about using this 5-minute epoxy stuff, you know, even though it sets, you still have some working time to move and adjust, and, you know, just to, you know, set it in position just right. Especially if you mix it quick enough too. So, and also, the reason why I have tape along places is just so for ease of cleanup, because I don't want, you know, epoxy and glue to get too much everywhere. Trying to minimize, you know, that as possible. Oh, and I guess I'm coming up with more things. And as far as the nacelles, I did another TrekWorks Boyd tip from his second refit build, his 10-year-old video about using RVT on the inside of here as a light block. I don't think he mentioned it, but I kind of noticed it at the beginning. Is obviously, you know, if you're gonna put RVT in here, you know, basically that crap, put in a little bit at a time on the edge, wait an hour or so, let it set up. Also, you know, tape it off a lot better too, because, you know, so that way if it gets messy, you're on tape, you're not on the model. But basically build it up around the edge, let it set up, and add a little bit more and a little bit more. You may take 2 or 3 tries. And the reason why is because it's such a cavity in here. You put all that wet RVT in there, it's just going to fill it all up. And next thing you know, you have a lot of it in here. It's extra weight, and you probably be burying some of your lights. So, and also maybe also plug your holes. That's, you know, for where the pegs go into to put this thing into. Like, use a piece of sprue. Lucky for me, I have plugs that actually fit in here, so I just put it in and pull it out, so the holes are still there. And you may have to trim a little bit of excess off too, but there was no way for me to actually put this on a test fit in unless I shove all these wires into the pylons, but I'll probably have a hell of a time getting them back out, so I didn't do that. I'm just going to go for it. But yeah, that's what I did. It just makes a easier light block. I don't know if it's 100% guarantee that it'll get all of it out, but it should definitely do most of it. So we'll see if there's any light leaks afterwards. So, okay, now I think we can actually kind of get on it. There's really no point of doing it in real time because soldering and all this stuff is boring as hell. And so I'm just going to do it in a time lapse. So just like in the last video, I think I'm going to put this whole thing together in time lapse. So I got to get ready for that, get out this narrating part, and again, more soundtrack music for you, more copyrighted stuff that I can't air on YouTube. I'll get copyright strikes or whatever. So I need to get in the zone for this one, so believe me. Okay, let's get this thing done, motherfucker. Well, a little break into the time lapse here. Just a little bit of backtrack of what I actually had to go through. Hold on, let me just move this out of the way. Because of a little thing I discovered. Putting on the nacelles, which I've kind of heard before, but I don't know why I didn't think about it. And I should have known when it came to putting on, you know, the neck on how tight it was. Basically, the nacelles, the 3 pins in there are super tight. So if you kind of notice I had to struggle a little bit, I got them in there, but of course, you know, when you struggle with them, you have a chance of probably breaking something. Luckily, that didn't happen, but as going forward, which I did with the saucer with the holes in here, I just took my pin vise, or if you don't have one, you know, a very small drill bit. I found a bit that fit perfectly in its original holes and then went one size bigger. Me, I have like a 144 piece drill bit set that has like, that's like super duper mini micro sizes, but you don't need that. Just there's other ways you can do. If you have like a 20 piece set, whatever, do one size bigger. Or if you have like a jeweler's file for some of this stuff, like I had to do with this kit, which I have somewhere, which it just walked off. Anyways, the point is, make these a little bit bigger so you don't have to fight as much as far as getting them in there. So let that be a warning. So I guess from there, oh yeah, I had a chance to test, you know, to make sure my wiring was good. Wiring is totally good. The lights in the nacelles work as they're supposed to. But one thing I wanted to see was any light leaks that could happen on where the pylons meet the nacelles because of the RVT trick. And I have to say, that works perfectly. I have zero light leaks from when I put it on here, from anywhere in there. So that's good. So I was like thinking maybe I have a little spot or something, but no, that came out pretty good. So I guess now got to deal with this, and this is going to be the real fun part, just because of trying to keep my wire close as short as possible, because there's only so much I can shove in here and really none in here. By the way, there's my repair I had to do right there from what I mentioned before. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I can kind of push this bundle in here a little bit, but it's going to be tricky because epoxy, you only have so much time to work with. So yeah, okay. Of course, the way I'm setting this up here, you know, I just happen to have a couple clamps where I store these big boys right there, and the way the model sits right here, it's just kind of literally, I'm literally resting it on the peg close to the wires as I can. I just need it stable enough somehow, some way. Had it before. Come here. I need stability in my life. Actually, you know what? What I need, well, I guess this is fine. Put, sometimes a rag has grip. So just drape the edge. Just do it anyway so I don't scratch it up. Yeah, it's a lot better. Rag gave it some grip. So let's get this on the road and let's get this thing done. I want to make a new series.